When love collides with secrets, only the truth can set you free. Welcome to Gorgeous Chaos, Part 3. The unforgettable climax of T.K. Leigh's Beautiful Mess series, where passion meets peril, and the past refuses to stay buried. As Olivia Adler begins to reclaim pieces of her forgotten past, she edges closer to a truth that could either set her free or destroy everything she loves. At her side is Alexander Burnham, the man who's risked everything to protect her, but also the one hiding the very secrets that could unravel it all. As danger draws near and long-hidden memories begin to surface, the race against time begins. Will Olivia finally uncover her true identity? Will Alexander choose honesty over fear? And when the past finally catches up, who will survive the storm? With pulse-pounding suspense, powerful emotion, and a love story that defies the odds, Gorgeous Chaos, Part 3 delivers a breathtaking finale you won't soon forget. This is more than romance, it's a journey through heartbreak, healing, and the resilience of the human spirit. Hit play and step into a world of secrets, danger, and a love that refuses to fade, even in the face of chaos. Chapter 18, Constant. Libby, you need to talk about it, Cam said in a feeble attempt to get Olivia to open up about what happened, especially considering the meltdown you had last night at open mic. He walked from the kitchen to where she sat in her reading nook by the bay windows overlooking the street. I can help you work through this, and not as a therapist. He grasped her hands in his, kneeling in front of her. As a friend, Libby, a friend who is so fucking worried about you right now. His face was awash with concern. Olivia sighed, staring out the window and meeting Alexander's eyes. She was glad he looked exactly how she felt. Empty, broken, shattered. Well, I guess I should start at the beginning. She got up and made her way to the couch, Cam joining her. She immediately lay down and placed her bare feet in his lap. The familiarity he felt with her made him grin. That's a pretty good place to start. He grabbed some lotion and began rubbing her feet, hoping that the comforting gesture would help her be forthcoming. It worked. Over the next several hours, Olivia proceeded to tell Cam everything she could think of, even if he already knew some of it. How her parents were killed in a car accident when she was 6. How she had nightmares about the crash nearly every night. How the dreams became more vivid once she met Alexander. How she dreamed that her father made it out of the car alive. How, in her dreams, she overheard a conversation between her father and uncle saying that they needed to fake both of their deaths. How she was raised by her uncle. How the man she thought was her uncle was really Alexander's father. How Alexander and she were childhood friends. And how Alexander knew her true identity back in August, but never told her. He had lied to her since then, in the guise of trying to protect her from some unknown threat. So, if most of your dreams were true, do you know if your father is still alive? That hadn't even crossed her mind. She was so upset with Alexander lying to her that she never even thought about anything else. I don't know. It was just a dream. Was it? Though he asked urgently. Our brains try to protect us. Olivia, you were in an accident that, apparently, caused you to suffer from memory loss. Usually, after such an event, you'd be surrounded by people from your past, and you'd eventually come to remember everything again. But that didn't happen. You were taken away from everyone and went to boarding school with sporadic contact from a family friend you were made to believe was your uncle. You never had the chance to regain your memory. But those memories were still there in your brain somewhere, desperately wanting to get out. Once you saw Alexander years later, your brain was trying to tell you something and help you remember. Do you think my father could still be alive? I don't know. I don't want to get your hopes up, but it's a question you need to ask him. She looked at Cam, wide-eyed at the suggestion that she speak to Alexander. Libby, I'm not stupid. As much as I would love for you to forget all about him, I know that won't ever happen. You'll never love anyone like you love him. I know that now. Olivia processed his words before grabbing her iPad, searching through her music library. What are you doing? Cam asked, a quizzical look on his face. That just reminds me of a song, she explained, finding the tune she was looking for and streaming it to her speakers. "You're too much." He shook his head and listened to the soulful blues song reverberating throughout Olivia's home. "But seriously, Libby, you need to talk to him at some point. He holds all the answers to your questions. You need to give him a chance to explain everything. You need closure, and he's the only way you'll get it." She sighed, her eyes still glued to the iPad in front of her while she looked up chord progressions online. "I just need time. I'm not ready yet. Part of me doesn't want to know because if my dreams are true, then Alexander knew my life was in danger and he kept me in the dark about everything. I'll give you time, but you need to do this." "I know," she agreed before looking into Cam's kind eyes that never lied to her. "Will you stay just a little longer? Please, I don't want you to leave me just yet." She reached across the couch and grabbed his hand. "You're the only person I feel I can talk to who will give me a straight answer." "What about Kira and Mo? I love them both dearly, and they're good about calling my bullshit. But there's something about talking to you that I don't get when I talk to them." A smile crossed Cam's face, his dimples popping. "I'll stay for as long as you want me to, Libby." "Thank you." She squeezed his hand. That night, as she lounged on the couch with Cam, she glanced outside, tears welling in her eyes when she noticed Alexander sitting in the driver's seat of the SUV. Slowly getting up from the couch, she grabbed her glass of wine and sat in the window. She stared at Alexander for nearly 2 hours, tears falling down both of their faces. She wanted him to come up to her door and say something, anything, but he didn't. "Take me to Miss Adler's," Alexander slurred after climbing into his SUV the following Wednesday evening. He had just had more than a few drinks with his brother, finally telling Tyler the whole story about what happened between him and Olivia. Of course, he left out a few details, like her father still being alive. No one could know that. "Yes, sir," Martin said. As the SUV pulled up in front of the brownstone on Commonwealth Avenue, he saw Olivia and Cam through the window snuggled up on the couch together. He was infuriated to still see him there with her after over a week had passed. His blood spiked with anger at the thought of someone else being there to comfort his Olivia. Grabbing his cell phone in a moment of weakness, he dialed her number, knowing that it probably wasn't the best idea for him to call her in his inebriated state. He watched with furrowed brows to see if she would answer her cell phone. Inside her house, Olivia heard her phone ring. She slowly raised herself off the couch and made her way over to the kitchen island, a sad expression on her face when she glanced down at her phone. Her lower lip began to tremble when she saw those green eyes staring back at her from the screen. Every night that he sat outside her house and simply stared at her, she felt her heart break a little bit more. She was shattered, and each day that passed was another reminder of his inability to tell her the truth. Answering the phone, there was no response on the other end. She sat down in the bay window with the phone glued to her ear, willing Alexander to say something. Apart from his gentle breathing, the line was eerily quiet. "I learned a new song today, Alex," she said, cutting through the thick silence. "It reminds me of you, and me. All songs seem to remind me of you in some way. Mama always said that music is the best solution to any problem." She lowered her voice. "But you probably already know that. Anyway, that's what I've been doing, locking myself away in my music room, playing music, mostly blues because that's how I feel without you. I should be so angry with you. And I am. Alex, I'm so furious with you. I'm sitting here questioning everyone in my life. I don't know what's real and what's not. I've been lied to my entire life. Hell, I don't even know what my real name is." She took a deep breath and put her hand up to the glass in front of her. "But through it all, through all the soul-searching and all the questions, I've realized that the one thing I do know is that I need more time to figure everything out." Olivia heard Alexander let out a small cry. She locked eyes with the man sitting in the SUV, tears flowing freely from both their eyes. For the first time, she not only saw the Alexander she had gotten to know over the past several months, but she also saw the scared little boy who pulled her from the car when she was a young girl, saving her life. and she realized that he had continued to save her life on a daily basis. With everything going on, he was her constant, the one person she could depend on, the one person who had loved her throughout her entire life. Olivia dropped her voice, realizing that Alexander was family, the only family she had left. "I'll never love anyone as much I love you, Alexander." "So you still love me?" he asked, his voice full of hope. Olivia's heart fell to the pit of her stomach. It had been nearly a week since she had heard his voice, his gentle voice that had told her how he had searched for her his entire life. The voice that was the calm in the storm of her life, letting out a soft cry. She met his eyes through the glass. "I don't think I'll ever stop loving you." Alexander held the phone to his ear for a moment before realizing she had hung up. He looked at the window and met her tear-filled eyes. His face flashed red with anger when he saw Cam come up behind her and put his arms around her, leading her away from the window and toward the couch. "Okay, enough of this bullshit, Libby," Cam exclaimed the following day as he worked at his laptop, watching her scroll through the Google image search results for Alexander. The gossip magazines had been speculating about a possible breakup for the past week, and it was still a hot news story. "Suck it, Cam," she hissed, rolling her eyes. "I'm not going to put up with it anymore." "What is it going to take to get you to stop feeling sorry for yourself and talk to me? You've turned Kira and Mo away every time they've come to check on you. They care about you and are worried. You're wasting away again, and it's not good for you. Libby, you need to talk to them about what's going on. Let them in." "What do I say to them?" "Tell them the truth. They're your friends," he replied, walking over to the couch and grabbing her iPad out of her hands, forcing her to talk to him. "Yeah, but they'll probably just say that I made everything up in my mind so I could push Alexander away. The last thing I was looking for was a reason to leave him. I was so looking forward to marrying him." She furrowed her brow, the vein in her forehead popping like it always did when she was nervous. "Libby, don't underestimate your friends." He grabbed her hands, savoring the feel of her soft flesh on his. "They'll always be your biggest cheering section if they're worth it. And if they give you trouble, I'll be here for you, supporting you." He dropped his gaze from hers, staring at her small hands enclosed in his. "Just like I always will." His eyes returned to hers, her breathing increasing as she listened to his affectionate words. The atmosphere in the room suddenly became heated. Cam could feel his heart rate pick up when he noticed Olivia's expression change from one of anxiety to almost one of desire, her eyes flaming with lust. He leaned in slowly and gently brushed his lips against hers, softly at first as if asking if she was okay with it. Olivia was unsure about how to react. She had always found Cam attractive and, for the past week, he was the only one she felt that she could depend on. But she knew his feelings for her were stronger than hers were. She didn't want to lead him on, but it felt so good to be kissed and loved by someone, getting lost in the moment. She closed her eyes and deepened the kiss, pulling Cam on top of her as their tongues tangled. Olivia wrapped her legs around his waist, reveling in the feeling of closeness she had missed the past week that she had been away from Alexander. Snapping back to reality, Cam pulled out of the kiss, looking down at Olivia. "Don't stop, please," she begged. "Libby." He sat back up, running his hands through his hair. "We shouldn't." She closed her eyes and took a deep breath before looking into his eyes. "Oh, Cam," she exhaled, realizing what she was about to do and how much she would have regretted it afterwards. "You're right. I wish I could love you. I really do. You'd be so easy to love." He sighed, shaking his head. "You can't say stuff like that to me. Libby, I wish you could love me too, but I know that'll never happen." He was starting to think that he needed to get out of Boston before he became so attached to Olivia that he would never get over her. "Well, I guess I'm going to talk to Kira and Mo," she said, bringing Cam back from his thoughts. Smiling, he handed Olivia her phone. "Invite them over." "Fine," she huffed. "What the fuckity fuck?" Libby Kira asked when Olivia answered the door a few hours later. "Nice to see you, too." "Kira," She stepped back and allowed Kira and Mo inside. You both remember Cam? He's still here. Are you telling me that you left Alexander for Cam? I knew there was a reason he was with you at open mic. Kira fumed before turning to Cam. What the fuck are you thinking? I know you have a thing for her, but she was supposed to get married. Kira. Olivia yelled, everyone turning toward her. Enough. Please, she begged, lowering her voice. It's not what you think. I needed Cam and he came to help me work through some things. If you'll please stow your pitchfork, I'd like to tell you both what's been going on. Fine, Kira said, flopping on the couch. She turned her eyes up to meet Cam's. But I'm keeping my eyes on you, mister. Cam laughed and took a seat next to Olivia, grabbing her hand in a show of support. She smiled at him before proceeding to tell Mo and Kira the story that Cam had heard so many times. So, he's known secrets about your past since August and refused to tell you. Mo asked when Olivia had finished telling them everything that had happened between her and Alexander. It was obvious that he was quite irritated. Now you see why I stormed out on him. That bastard, Kira exclaimed, unable to process the fact that Alexander and Olivia were childhood best friends. But the problem is that he holds all the secrets to my past. I know I should want to find out more about everything, but part of me is scared to know. What if there's a good reason that his father changed my identity? I'm sure there is, Mo said. You said the guy was ex-CIA. He wouldn't do that unless it was necessary. Libby, Kira said, bringing Olivia's attention back to her. Nothing we say is going to tell you what you should do. This is your life and your past. Mo and I have the luxury of knowing our family. You never did. Whatever you decide to do, we'll support you. Always. Olivia walked over to the couch and sat between her two friends, both of them hugging her. Thanks, guys. I love you both so much. Just so you know, Kira said, if you want to have a retaliatory fuck with Cam, I'd totally support that. Cam's eyes went wide and Olivia looked at him, shaking her head at her friend's offer. Thanks, Kira, she replied, grinning at Cam. I'll keep that in mind. Good, because that fucker deserves to be hurt after what he's put you through. Maybe you should tell him. Livy, Mo said. Tell him how much pain he's caused you. I have, she explained. I just don't think he's listening. Well, make him listen. Chapter 19, Opening Up. Libby Melanie shouted when she saw her walk into McFadden's the following Friday. How have you been? Are you back playing with the guys again, she asked, excited to finally see her friend. Hi, Mel, Bridge, Olivia said, nodding a greeting to her friends. She hadn't seen them since Vegas. That seemed like ages ago, even though only a few weeks had passed. Kira told us about you and Alexander, Bridget said, placing her hand on Olivia's arm, a compassionate look across her face. We're so sorry. There's definitely more to the story than just a simple breakup, but we'll get to that later. To answer your question, yes, I'm singing with the guys again tonight. It's about time that I got my ass back in gear. Who's this? Bridget asked, eyeing Cam up and down. This is the same guy that you were talking to at the Green Dragon all those weeks ago, isn't it? Yes. Mel, Bridget, this is my friend, Cam. He's kind of been helping me through my issues. Nice to meet you both, he said politely before turning his eyes back to Olivia. Would you like a drink? The usual. Yes, please, I need it tonight. He nodded, walking toward the bar through the audience that had gathered to see the band. Damn, he's a hottie. You go from one hottie to another, Bridget Melanie exclaimed, smacking her friend. You came here with Dylan? Dylan, you mean Vegas? Dylan? Olivia eyed Melanie and Bridget. Yeah, Bridget replied, blushing and looking around the dark bar. He agreed to come with me tonight, although I'm not sure where he's run off to. She furrowed her brow. We've gone out a few times over the past couple of weeks. She returned her attention to Olivia and Melanie. And Mel's been tutoring Lucas in a psych class he's struggling with that she's already taken. At least he's gay, so I don't have to worry about him stealing my girl, Tyler said, walking up to the girls and snaking his arm around Melanie's waist. Olivia stared at him as he kissed Melanie's neck affectionately. She hated how much he reminded her of his brother. She wondered if he had known about her all along, too. Hey, you almost ready? Mo asked, surprising Olivia. She didn't even realize he was standing next to her. Turning her head toward him as he stood with his arm around Kira, she noticed Alexander walk in. Yep, let's do this. Olivia spun on her heel, not wanting to stare into Alexander's sad eyes any longer, torn about whether she should still want to be with a man who kept her past from her. Hey, all we're back! Mo shouted into the microphone to enthusiastic applause once the band was set to begin. And, thankfully, we have the whole band back as well. Miss Olivia Adler, everyone. The crowd cheered as Olivia scanned the audience, her eyes locking with Alexander's. Mo stepped aside from the microphone, bringing a bar stool in front for her to sit on. How's everyone doing tonight? She grabbed the microphone out of the stand and sat down on the stool. I know many of you have already heard about my little breakup. The audience laughed politely as they kept their eyes glued on her. All my life, I've had difficulties expressing my feelings. Except through music, she explained. Earlier this week, I went for a run and a song came on my iPod that I think does a pretty good job at saying exactly how I feel. So that's what I'd like to sing for you all tonight. And for Alexander, a tear fell down her cheek. This is Last Love Song by Z. Ward. Alexander. I need this to be the last love song I sing for you unless you can tell me the truth. Please. Olivia nodded at Mo and he started playing the simple guitar line. Her chin trembled a bit as she began to sing about the wedding that would never be and the life with Alexander that was suddenly a distant dream. Cam stood watching as Olivia sat on her bar stool, her eyes trained on Alexander, singing every word for him and him alone. He finally realized that he was crazy for thinking that she would ever see him as anything other than a distraction from the pain. He wanted so much more from her, something he knew she would never be able to give him, no matter how things ended between her and Alexander. I need to get out of here, he said to Bridget. She looked at him. Where are you going? Cam glanced back at the stage, taking one last look at Olivia. Home, where I belong. He turned to leave the bar, stopping when he saw Alexander standing in the back of the room with his eyes fixed on Olivia. Alexander, he said, reaching his hand out toward him. Cam, Alexander replied curtly, shaking it. I just want to say this as a friend of Olivia's. She's hurting, but she's still madly in love with you. You need to do the right thing. Maybe if she knows about her past, she can move on from this and start living again. I don't think she'll ever be able to move past you if you don't. Alexander looked at Cam, surprised at his candor. What the fuck qualifies you for knowing what she needs? You don't know her like I do, he yelled before lowering his voice. How can she move on? I love her. Cam exhaled loudly, running his fingers through his hair. Then prove it to her. Do the right thing. Alexander simply stared as Cam turned abruptly and left the bar, knowing that he was right. Looking over at the still crowd, he listened to Olivia pour her heart out to complete strangers, the betrayal in her voice absolutely devastating. He wished that he wasn't the cause of that pain. He had been a coward back in August when he kept the truth from her. Every day since then, he had let his fears get the better of him. Cam was right. She deserved to know everything, regardless of her father's wishes. And that's what he resolved to do. It was time to come clean and tell her everything. Remorse overwhelmed him as he watched Olivia close her eyes, her chin quivering with unshed tears. She belted out the last few lines of the song, a hollow look on her face. The audience erupted in cheers and whistles as the final note rang through the bar. Taking a small bow, she turned to Mo, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry. Mo, I have to go. Can you? Don't worry, kid. I'll break down your gear. He embraced her, squeezing her tight. I love you, Livy. Oh, Mo, I love you too. And Alexander loves you, he whispered. I'm sure of that. She pulled back, meeting Mo's eyes. But I'm not sure if I should keep loving him. She walked away, running into Melanie and Bridget. Where's Cam? She asked, wiping the tears off her cheeks. He said he went home. He looked so sad, though. Home? Olivia asked. What do you mean? He said it was where he belonged, Bridget explained. I need to go, she said quickly, knowing that Cam was probably already on his way to the airport. Where's Kira? She left right after you went on. She said she wasn't feeling too well and that she would probably just go home. She looked pretty pale. I hope she's okay, Olivia said, her voice full of concern. She said she hadn't been feeling well all day and just needed to lie down for a bit. She said not to worry about her and that she'd call you tomorrow sometime when she was feeling better. Okay, I'll see you later, Olivia shouted, heading down the stairs and out the front door to try to catch Cam before he left. Olivia, a quiet voice called out. She stilled, her breath catching. Slowly, she turned around to face Alexander. It was the first time she had been that close to him since the day she left him, the day she found out who he was. He looked so sad. The normal confidence he exuded was nowhere to be found. He was broken. What is it, Alexander? I just wanted to say how sorry I am about everything that's happened between us, he said quietly, his eyes pleading with her. I wanted to tell you for so long, but the longer I kept it from you, the harder it was to say anything. Olivia kept her fierce brown eyes glued to his, wanting him to continue talking. Taking a step forward, he brushed a stray piece of hair behind her ear. She closed her eyes, reveling in the contact she had ached for since leaving him. Alexander chuckled a little as his thumb brushed over the scar at her hairline. I remember when you got this. You were screaming bloody murder after slipping on these rocks in front of your family's beach estate. You cut your head wide open and I had to run and find your mom and explain how you got hurt. We weren't supposed to be on the rocks. Olivia's bottom lip started to quiver as she listened to him recall the memory. She wanted to know more. She wanted to know everything about her past, but then again, she didn't. She felt so weak at that moment. She wanted to walk away from Alexander and never see him again, but at the same time, she wanted to stay close to him, to hear everything he had to say, to feel his body next to hers. You were such a pain in the ass when you were little, a spoiled little brat. But I loved you so much, Olivia, even when you always cheated at the games we used to play. The day of the accident, I was beside myself. I'll never forget sitting through your funeral. Your casket was so small. A tear escaped from his eye as he recalled the painful memory. I couldn't help but think how truly horrible it was to watch them lower you into the ground. Olivia listened to Alexander's words as she tried to fight back her tears, the entire time wondering what he went through when he was a little boy. Losing your best friend at such a young age is something no child should have to go through. My parents put me in therapy after that. He explained. I never snapped out of it. By that time, Dad had begun his mysterious disappearing act. I hated him for that. I hated him for thinking that one of his stupid protection details was more important than his own son. Until recently, I had no idea it was you that he was looking out for. He gently brushed a tear away from her eye before continuing his story. My therapist suggested that I find some way to honor your memory. He looked down and reached for her, a warmth spreading through his body from the chaste contact of her delicate hand enclosed in his. That's when I started going to the cemetery every year on the date of your death. I think she suggested it so that I would finally stop looking for you everywhere. He returned his eyes to hers, his expression intense. But I never stopped. Olivia, I just didn't want to believe that you were dead. I think I had such a hard time believing it because I knew you made it out of that car. I was the one who saved you. I'm the boy with green eyes that you see in your dreams. I should have told you the first time you mentioned the dream, but I was selfish and I didn't. And I know I'll have to live with that decision for the rest of my life. In my dream, when I saw the green-eyed boy, or you, get hit over the head, that did happen. I dreamed that my dad was still alive. Do you think? Olivia, listen to me, please. He clasped both of her hands between his. I promised that I would keep everything quiet, but I've made that promise in the past, and I've lost you because of it. Olivia stared into Alexander's eyes, searching them for the answer she yearned to hear. Yes, your father is still alive, she gasped, fighting for air as her legs gave out from the shock of his words. Alexander reacted quickly, wrapping his arms around her to steady her. I just don't understand, she cried out. Why didn't anyone ever tell me? Where is he? He looked down at her, tears flowing down her cheeks as he contemplated what he should tell her. Technically, her father was still under protection, so he couldn't divulge any information to her about his whereabouts or his name. But she needed something. "I'm right here, Livy," a voice said. Alexander and Olivia both snapped their heads in the direction of the voice. Olivia stared at the man in front of her, unable to believe her eyes. She would recognize his face anywhere, even if it had aged a bit since she had seen him last. The face belonged to her father. "Daddy," Olivia cried out, pushing away from Alexander's embrace. "Is it really you? Please tell me this isn't just another dream and I'm about to wake up screaming." Jack DeLuca wrapped his arms around her, comforting her tears. "It's really me, Livy. I'm not going anywhere ever again, but we have to be careful. You can't call me by my real name. You have to call me Nathan." "I don't care what I have to call you. As long as you're alive, that's all I care about." Olivia sobbed. "Oh, Livy, I made such a huge mistake letting Alex's dad take you away from me after your mom was killed. I've spent every minute of my life looking for you since that awful day. I've been waiting for this moment for over 20 years. Olivia couldn't control her tears any longer. She had experienced such extreme emotions over the past several weeks, and she was tired of trying to keep it all together. "It's okay, baby girl. Let it all out," he soothed, rubbing his daughter's back. Alexander met Jack's eyes, and he knew that Olivia was in good hands. He quietly walked away, knowing he still needed to tell her everything. However, right now, she needed her father more than him. Chapter 20. The Point of No Return. "Donovan, it's Grant. I did what you asked me to do." "Excellent. What's next?" "Proceed as planned, and let me know as soon as you make contact with the girl." "Yes, sir." Donovan clicked the receiver before dialing, thankful that something was finally going right. "Cheryl, it's me. Get ready, and tell Simon to get ready as well." "Yes, sir." The following day, Olivia was still reeling from the revelation that her father was alive and in the same city. He drove her home the previous night, and they sat on her couch talking for hours. By the time he left, promising that he would be in touch, she had all but forgotten about Cam and wanting to find him. When she finally remembered, he was long gone. Maybe it was for the best that he left without saying goodbye. That seemed to be how it was with them. As she paced her living room, ready to burst from wanting to share her good news with someone, she glanced at the time and decided to give Kira a call, hoping that she would be awake and feeling better than the night before. "Libby," Kira croaked into the phone, picking up right before the call went to voicemail. "Hey, Kira, are you okay? You don't sound too good." There was a brief pause. "Sorry, I'm fine. Just feeling a little under the weather. Do you want me to bring you something?" "No," Kira screeched. "Are you sure you're okay?" she asked hesitantly. "You don't sound like yourself." Olivia heard Kira take a deep breath. "Yes, I'm fine. Mo and I just had a little argument. That's all." She let out a small cry. "Oh, I'll be there in an hour." "Libby, no!" But Olivia didn't hear her protest. She had already hung up the phone. Tears streamed down Kira's face as the large man took the phone away from her ear. "Now, what did I tell you would happen if you did something stupid?" Grant raised his gun, pointing it at Kira's chest. "Please, no, don't kill me," she sobbed out. "I love a girl who begs." A smile crept across his face. "Well, it would be horrible to waste an hour doing nothing." He pushed Kira over on the couch and quickly untied her legs. "Oh, wait. A little insurance that you won't run away." Grant picked up his gun and shot her in the knee. "Ugh!" Kira screamed out in agony. "That's better." Olivia emerged from her house less than an hour later. She couldn't wait to tell Kira all about her father being alive. But it sounded like she was upset. She had always been a good friend to Olivia, constantly listening about her problems. It was time for her to return the favor. As she walked onto Commonwealth Avenue and into her car, she noticed that a dark SUV was no longer parked out front. Maybe Alexander finally realized that she didn't always need protecting. As she drove through the city streets, she was confused about her feelings. She had grown accustomed to sitting in her bay window, staring into his eyes. Would she ever see him again? Olivia arrived at Kira's house in a matter of minutes. She locked the car, thinking how useful the keyless entry Alexander had installed was. walking up the front steps. Alarm bells began going off when she noticed that the front door was slightly ajar. "Kira, are you in here?" she called out, slowly pushing open the door. She wasn't prepared for the scene that met her eyes. "Oh my God, Kira." She ran over to her friend as she lay unconscious, covered in her own blood. She checked her breathing and her pulse, thankful when she was able to find one, although it was rather weak. She took in Kira's appearance, bile forming in her throat when she noticed that her skirt was pushed up around her waist. With shaky hands, Olivia grabbed a blanket and immediately tried to cover her up, her heart racing. A loud bang sounded from down the hall, startling her and making her almost jump out of her skin. She knew what she was about to do was probably one of the most idiotic things she had ever done in her 28 years, but her legs were on autopilot. She followed the noise, stopping dead in her tracks when the bathroom door swung open. The large man standing in front of her looked familiar, but he lunged at her before she had time to search her brain for how she knew him. Must be my lucky day. 2 girls in one morning. Olivia screamed at the top of her lungs, kicking the intruder in the balls and taking off down the hallway. "Fuck, you're a feisty one." Grant was relatively unaffected by Olivia's assault to his groin. He grabbed her by the waist and slammed her against the wall, reminding himself to not go overboard with her. His job was to scare her off so she would run. Olivia's head hit the wall fairly hard. It wasn't the worst pain she had ever felt, but she knew that the monstrous man in front of her would overpower her at some point. It was fight or flight, and it was no longer the time to fight. The best thing she could do was get to her car and call for help. She gave him one more kick in the balls and made her escape out the front door. Running frantically up to her Audi, she attempted to punch her unlock code into the car door. The large man appeared in the doorway and Olivia became anxious, unable to get the code correct. The man started down the steps toward her. "Damn it," she cried, running away from the house. "Finally," Grant said under his breath when she bolted down the street. He picked up his cell phone and punched in a number. "It's Grant. Your turn. She's heading north toward Columbus." Olivia felt completely helpless as she ran up toward Columbus Street. Every few seconds, she turned around to see if she was still being followed. She didn't see anyone chasing her, but she couldn't risk it. She needed to call 911, but her purse and phone were locked in her car, which was still sitting in front of Kira's house. Then she saw someone she recognized. He appeared to be out for a morning run. "Simon," she screamed. Simon turned his head to see Olivia running toward him, obviously panicked about something. "Olivia, are you okay?" "Oh, my God, what is it?" She slammed into his arms, clutching onto him, her breathing labored and tears streaming down her cheeks. A grin crept across his face before he replaced it with the look he had spent so much time practicing. "You're shaking, what's going on?" She pulled out of his arms, looking up into his eyes. "It's Kira, Simon. Someone was in her house. They shot her. They attacked me too, but I was able to get away. My phone and everything is in my car in front of her house. I need to call for help." He looked at Olivia with a confused look on his face. He shot her. He didn't think anyone was going to get hurt. Not like that. They were just supposed to scare them a little. "Here, use mine," he offered, snapping out of his thoughts. "Let's go back there. You need to get your car and phone. I'll go with you to make sure you're okay." "Simon, no!" "Olivia, listen to me. If Kira's hurt, she needs help, and you need to be there to answer any questions the police may have." "Okay, for Kira." She nodded. "Of course, for Kira." He handed her his phone and walked with her while she made the call to 911. In a stupor, she followed him around the block, arriving at Kira's house within a few minutes. "Wait here." Simon protectively pushed Olivia back before walking up the steps. "Simon, no, don't go in there," she begged, grasping onto his arm. "Olivia," he said, turning to look into her huge, frightened eyes. He immediately felt a strange feeling for his part in all of this. It was something new. Remorse. Maybe. He brushed a curl out of her face before pulling her into his body, comforting her. "I'll take care of this. If the intruder is gone, Kira needs help and the EMTs aren't here yet. I can help her. But if he's still in there, she sobbed into his chest. He pulled back, looking down into her water-filled eyes, and dried her cheeks with his fingers. I can handle him. Olivia. He leaned down and placed a chaste kiss on her forehead before walking up the rest of the front steps into the house. Well, it's about fucking time. What the hell? He looked over at Kira, a look of horror crossing his face. Don't worry about her. Bitch is unconscious, even half dead. She was a good lay. You're an asshole. Simon punched Grant in the face, and he deserved it. Although it was all part of the plan, the scene laid out in front of him was more than his stomach could handle. Kira looked like she was on the cusp of death, and he couldn't believe he had a part in it. But he knew that if he didn't follow through, he'd be as good as dead, too. So he did what he had to do. He punched Grant again. You motherfucker. She's a friend, he shouted loud enough for Olivia to hear as regret overwhelmed his conscience. Opening the basement door, Grant looked at Simon. I can't look. Just push me. Make it quick. Simon grinned, driving into his body with all of his strength. A feeling of vindication washed over him as he watched Grant tumble down the stairs before getting up and winking at Simon. Closing the basement door, he ran down the hallway and out the front door, his breathing heavy. It's okay. Olivia, he's unconscious at the bottom of her basement stairs. I need to go before the police get here. I can't get arrested again. Olivia immediately felt guilty for dragging him into her mess. Okay, I get it. Are you going to be all right? She stared blankly ahead, trying to process everything. I don't know how to answer that question. Simon, I'll call you later to check on you. Okay? He gently squeezed her arm. Olivia nodded, thankful to have a friend to help her with what she was going through, even if it was Simon. I'd like that. He walked away just as he heard an ambulance round the corner. Chapter 21, Because of Olivia. After talking with the police and telling the officer what she knew, Olivia left Kira's house, racing toward the hospital. She grabbed her cell out of her purse and dialed Mo's number. He didn't answer. She tried again. Still nothing. Damn it, she screamed, throwing her phone on the seat next to her as she pulled a U-turn and drove out to Arlington to find Mo. 20 minutes later, she pounded on his door. Mo answered the door wearing a pair of cargo shorts and a t-shirt. His face paled when he saw the panicked look on Olivia's face, her eyes red from crying. He knew that something had to be wrong, and he immediately thought about Kira. She had left the bar the previous night without saying goodbye, giving Melanie some story about how she wasn't feeling well. He tried calling her, but she didn't pick up. At the time, he just thought that she was sleeping off whatever sickness she had. Now that he thought about it, none of it made any sense. Olivia, he said, cautiously opening the screen door. What's wrong? Mo, it's Kira, she quivered. No, he cried out under his breath. Olivia drove Mo to the hospital. He was in complete shock when she told him what had happened. She didn't give him all the details because she was quite uncertain of them herself. She didn't want him to worry any more than he already was, so she kept the information she gave him to a minimum. She felt guilty for doing so, but she saw the fragile state that he was in and didn't want to add to it. She immediately began to sympathize with Alexander's reasons for keeping her true identity a secret. He said he did it to protect her, and she started to see why. Wasn't she doing the same thing to Mo? It still didn't make what Alexander did to her right, but she started to understand his reasoning. After an excruciatingly long drive, Olivia pulled up outside the emergency room, allowing Mo to run inside and find out what he could while she searched for a parking spot. Once she finally found a spot in the garage, she ran toward the emergency room. The sliding doors opened, and she was surrounded by so many familiar faces standing in the stark white waiting area. There was one face she wasn't expecting to see. She immediately broke down in tears when Carol pulled her into her arms. Oh, Olivia, I'm so sorry. I know how close you are to Kira. How did you find out about what happened? She sobbed. I was working when I heard the call come in. The name sounded familiar, so I wanted to make sure that I was here for you. I called Tyler and he let everyone else know. I'm so glad you're here. I don't know what to do or think. We're all a mess right now. She glanced over at Mo. His face was still blank, obviously unable to come to terms with what was going on. Melanie and Bridget were hugging each other and crying, Tyler trying to comfort both girls. Kira's parents sat in the corner of the room, sobbing uncontrollably. "There's something else," Carol said gravely. "Walk with me for a minute, please." Concern washed over Olivia as she followed her out of the waiting room and down a long corridor. Once they found a quiet corner, Carol turned to face her. She reached into her purse and pulled out her cell phone, handing it to Olivia. She glanced at the photo on the screen. It was of a small bag marked evidence that contained a piece of notebook paper. "The crime scene text found it at Kira's house," Carol explained quietly, looking around to make sure no one was walking nearby. "The lead on this case is going to contact you about it eventually, but I convinced him to let me talk to you first." Olivia looked closer and was able to make out what was written on the piece of paper. "We know who you are. Your loved ones are no longer safe unless you give us what we want. Consider yourself warned." "Olivia, have you told Alexander about what's going on?" she asked Carol with a hesitant look on her face. "No, I haven't. Not yet. At some point, I will have to. He may know more than what he's letting on." Carol looked at Olivia as she stared off into the distance, deep in thought, the sound of heart monitors echoing through the empty hallway. "What do you know, Olivia?" Carol gave her a questioning look. "Probably no more than you do." She sighed, handing the phone back to Carol. "I know that I was a child with Alexander and that my mother was killed in a car accident. Your father faked my and my father's deaths." "Wait." What? Carol looked at her, surprised by her revelation. "Your father is alive." "Yes." You didn't know that, she asked with her eyebrows raised. How many more secrets was Alexander keeping? And from his own sister? "No, Alexander never told me," she responded quietly. It was silent while both women contemplated what it all meant. "Do you think he's keeping even more information from me? Do you think my dad knows something more?" Olivia asked. Carol exhaled loudly. "It's possible. If my dad did change both of your identities to hide you, I'm assuming your father is still under protection, so I can't officially talk to him. He needs to stay protected, and a secret. These people obviously know about you. We don't want them to find out about your father, too. Unfortunately, that means that you need to stay as far away from him as you can until we can figure everything out and make sure it's safe. For both of you." "But I just found out he was alive last night," Olivia protested. "Libby, it's for your own good. And his. Look at what happened to Kira. Beaten, assaulted, and shot. She's barely hanging on to life. Please, listen to whatever Alexander thinks is best for once. He's only ever had your best interests at heart. You may disagree with how everything went down in the end, and I'm right there with you. But he's very good at what he does. He's the only one in the world I would trust with my life. And you should do the same." Carol walked away, leaving her completely speechless. Olivia sighed as she reached into her purse and grabbed her cell phone. She dialed a number that she hadn't in weeks. "Burnham here," Alexander answered curtly. She didn't know what to say. "Olivia, love, is that you?" His voice softened. She melted when she heard his term of endearment. She had heard him call her that in her dreams. But hearing it for real was so much better. Tears took over and she broke down, the weight of that morning crashing down on her. "Olivia, is everything okay?" After several long moments of crying and fighting to breathe, she finally spoke. "No, Alexander, everything is not okay. I need you, please." "Where are you?" he asked with panic in his voice. "Shh," she cried out. "Oh, Alex, it's Kira." "Shit," he shouted. "I'm on my way. Hang tight, love." She slid down the wall and sat on the floor, burying her head in her knees as she cried for her best friend who was fighting for her life at that very moment. All because of Olivia. Alex, Melanie exclaimed when he ran into the emergency room, searching for a familiar face, the face he missed so much since she had run out on him. "Oh, it's so horrible," she cried out. "I don't know what due to." "What happened?" Alexander asked as he surveyed the group of people huddled in the waiting room. Olivia was not among them. "I have no idea, and no one is telling us anything." Mo is in shock over there. We're all falling apart. Please, Alex, figure this out because none of us are strong enough to deal with it. Melanie cried into her tissue as Tyler rubbed her back. Okay, Melanie, I'll get some answers. He looked around the corridor. Where's Olivia? Melanie burst into tears, unable to hold back at the thought of one of her best friends fighting for her life at that very moment. I'm not sure, Bridget said, comforting Melanie. She went to go talk to a detective and never came back. A detective? Yeah, Carol's here, bro, Tyler explained. Of course, he said under his breath. I'll be back. He strolled down the halls, not having to search for long before finding the girl he was looking for. She was sitting with her back against the wall, her arms wrapped around her legs and her head on her knees. She was visibly shaking, her quiet sobs echoing through the vacant hallway. He approached her slowly and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Olivia, love. She snapped her head up quickly upon hearing those words. It was exactly what she needed at that moment. She jumped into Alexander's embrace, savoring the warmth of his arms. She inhaled deeply, basking in the smell and feel of him. This was home. I've missed this, she said softly. Oh, Olivia, so have I. He placed a gentle kiss on her head. She looked up, their eyes meeting. I'm sorry for the way I've behaved. Alexander, she began to cry again. He pulled her head back against his chest. Hey, it's okay. Olivia, I'm sorry, too. Sorrier than you know. I knew you'd come around eventually. This isn't the type of love that happens all the time. This is the real thing. I never gave up hope that you'd return to me all those years ago. I certainly wasn't about to give up after we had a little hiccup. She laughed through her tears. You call that a little hiccup? In the grand scheme of things, yes, I do. She ran her fingers up and down his back, suddenly feeling calm considering everything she had been through that morning. I've never stopped loving you. You know? She pulled her head out of his chest and looked deep into his eyes. The affection he had for her was evident. I know, Olivia, and I will never stop loving you. I've loved you since the day you were born. And I'll love you until the day you die. And I plan on making it up to you every day in between. Reaching up, she grabbed his face with both her hands, bringing his mouth to hers. As their lips touched for the first time in weeks, tremors ran through her body. She had grown accustomed to his kisses over the course of their relationship, but that kiss felt so much more meaningful now that she knew who he really was, the boy that saved her when she was little. And he was the boy that saved her again less than a year ago. And he would always be there to save her. Finally. Olivia was happy with that. Their tongues met briefly before Alexander realized where he was and what he was there for. While he was happy to finally be reunited with his Olivia, he wasn't sure making out in the corridor of the emergency room at Mass General was appropriate, given the circumstances. Slowly, Alexander pulled back. To be continued later. Love. He winked and grabbed her hand before stopping abruptly. He lifted her left hand, examining her delicate finger. You're still wearing it. I never stopped wanting to be your wife, Alexander. Aside from what I may have wanted you to think. Like you said, we had a little hiccup. She shrugged. He embraced her again, groaning. I didn't think it was possible, but I just fell a little bit more in love with you. She smiled briefly before focusing her attention toward the waiting room. I need to go check on Mo. He's in a bad way. Come, Alexander said, placing his hand on the small of her back and leading her down the hallway. Melanie smiled when she saw them return together. I'll be right back. I'm going to see if I can find out what's going on. He kissed Olivia on the cheek. Well, finally some good news today, Melanie said once he was out of earshot. Olivia blushed, avoiding her eyes. We'll talk later. Melanie winked. Olivia glanced to the corner of the waiting room, her eyes welling up with tears as she made her way over to speak with Kira's mom and dad. Mr. and Mrs. Murphy, she said softly. They raised their heads simultaneously. Oh, Olivia, dear. Catherine Murphy stood up and embraced her. Our poor Kira. Olivia willed herself to not break down. Everyone seemed so sad and dejected. She needed to stay strong for them. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Murphy. She trailed off, not able to form the words that said that everything was all her fault. Hush, dear. You have nothing to apologize for. The only one who should be here apologizing is that monster who did this to my girl. Excuse me. An authoritative voice rang out, grabbing everyone's attention. Olivia turned and saw Alexander standing next to a doctor. Damn, he can be persuasive, can't he, she thought to herself. I'm Dr. Rosenblatt. I'd like to speak to Miss Murphy's parents privately for a moment, please. He looked toward where Olivia stood next to Kira's mom and dad. All these people are Kira's family, Catherine Murphy told him very matter-of-factly. Anything you need to tell us, you can say to them. Dr. Rosenblatt sighed before he continued. Kira is in stable, but critical condition. She's lost a lot of blood. She was shot in the leg, chest, and head. We've been operating on her for the past several hours and were able to successfully remove all the bullets. Thankfully, they missed hitting all vital organs. The shot to the head appeared to just graze her. We induced a coma as a precaution to operate and remove bullet fragments. Is she going to be okay? Bridget asked. It's touch and go at the moment. She still has quite a bit of swelling in her head, so we need to keep her in a coma until that has reduced. Once the swelling begins to subside, I'll know more. But until then, that's all I can really tell you. Can I see her? Everyone turned to the source of the voice. Mo sat there with a blank look still on his face, staring ahead at nothing in particular, his eyes glassed over. The doctor looked at Kira's parents, silently asking permission if it was okay that he be allowed to see her. Like I said, Dr. Rosenblatt, this is Kira's family. Anyone here is allowed to see her as long as the hospital is okay with her having visitors. Follow me, please. Dr. Rosenblatt said to Mo. No more than 2 people at a time. Libby, dear, why don't you go with him? He looks like he could use a friend. Olivia looked at Kira's mother. Are you sure you can go first, if you want to? You go. James and I will go after you return. Olivia wrapped her arms around her, pulling her in tight. Thank you. We'll make it quick. She turned, following the doctor and Mo down a long corridor past double doors marked ICU. They continued through what seemed like a maze of hallways before stopping outside the door to a private room. Mo sobbed quietly when he entered the room and saw Kira's lifeless body lying on a stark white hospital bed. He sat down next to her and held her hand, his cries making his entire body shake. Olivia walked in and closed the door, giving them some privacy. She placed her hand on Mo's shoulder, still determined to remain strong. Even though she wanted to break down and scream and cry, she had to keep it all together. For Mo, everything was her fault. She knew it. The letter Carol had shown her proved it. She had something these people wanted, and they weren't going to stop until they had it. But what was it? Was Alexander still keeping information from her? Carol's words kept repeating through Olivia's head. Listen to whatever Alexander thinks is best. He's only ever had your best interests at heart. After looking down at Kira's swollen and badly beaten body, Olivia couldn't take it anymore. Come on, Mo. Let's give her parents a chance to see her. He slowly nodded. You're right. Sorry, he said, his voice void of emotion. He raised himself from his chair and leaned over, planting a kiss on Kira's lips. I love you, Kay. Walking over to the bed, a tear fell down Olivia's cheek. She placed her hand over her friend's, noticing how cold and lifeless it was. I'm so sorry, Kira, she whispered. I'll make it up to you. I promise. She turned and left the small room, closing the door behind her. Olivia resolved to do whatever it took so that none of her other friends met with the same fate as Kira, even if it meant putting herself in danger. Chapter 22, Home. How's she doing? Alexander asked as soon as they returned to the waiting room. Oh, Alex! Olivia cried out, unable to muster any more strength after seeing Kira's lifeless body. His arms were around her instantly, and he soothed her tears, trying to comfort her. It's so horrible. She looks like she's dead. What is it? Love? What do you need? Name it and I'll do it for you. Her chin quivered as she listened to his heart beating in his chest. Take me home. Alexander, please, get me out of here. I can't be here anymore. And if that makes me a weak person, I don't care, she sobbed, clutching onto his back, wanting him to take the pain away. Olivia, look at me. She slowly tilted her head up, staring into his beautiful green eyes. Don't ever think that you're a weak person. He brushed the tears from her face. You're not. You've just been trying for too long to stay strong. Let me be the strong one for a little bit. Okay. She nodded, wiping her tear-stained cheeks. Good. He smiled. Now, you said you wanted to go home. Do you want me to give you a ride to your place, or did you bring your car? I have my car, but I was referring to our home. Alex. His smile widened and he grabbed Olivia's hand, pulling her through the sliding glass doors and out of the emergency room. He led her toward this parking garage, grabbing his cell phone as he walked. Martin, it's me. Miss Adler's Audi is in the garage at G.H. Coordinate with Carter to retrieve it and bring it to my place. He hung up just as they reached his Maserati. He opened the door for her and she smiled, happy that things were starting to feel somewhat normal again. He glanced over at her as he pulled out of the parking garage and onto Storrow Drive, heading back to the waterfront. Olivia, darling, I know you probably have a lot of questions right now, and I promise. Alexander, she said, interrupting him. I don't want to think about any of that right now because I'm pretty sure I'm going to get pissed off at you again. Please, let's forget about all of that for now. I just want to sit here and hold your hand. I've missed feeling your skin on mine. He opened his mouth to say something, quickly realizing that she was right. She would get more than just pissed off when she found out how much he had kept from her. Instead, he smiled at her, happy to have her at his side once more, even if it was fleeting. Okay, love, whatever you want. He grabbed her hand and clutched it in his, not letting go as he made his way through the busy Boston streets and parked his car in the garage beneath his building. After a tension-filled elevator ride to the penthouse, they finally exited into the foyer. Olivia inhaled deeply, thankful to be back where she belonged. She missed everything about Alexander, including the smell of his home. What would you like to do, Olivia? Name it. He turned to face her once inside their living room. She gazed into his brilliant green eyes, the eyes that once haunted her dreams, the eyes that had loved her since the day she was born. Alexander, I want you to make love to me. He bowed his head. He wanted nothing more than to feel Olivia's skin against his, but there were still unresolved issues. Olivia noticed his hesitation and reached for his hand, clutching it in her own. Alexander, please, I need to feel you. I need to feel the love you have for me. It's what I need right now. She pleaded with him before turning her lips into a smirk. Don't make me beg, she said coyly, pulling his body into hers. Alexander lost any willpower he had left. Leaning toward her, his lips brushed hers very gently. But I like it when you beg, he whispered. Olivia could feel a smile creep across his mouth. Please, Mr. Burnham, make love to me. Her voice was sweet as she softly kissed his lips, sliding her tongue between them. Her kiss was warm and passionate as she explored his mouth like it was the first time. Bending down, he scooped her into his arms and carried her up the stairs into the bedroom. Are you sure about this? Olivia, he asked, placing her feet on the floor next to the bed. Do you not want to have sex with me? Alex, she asked, her voice brimming with hurt. Olivia, I would love nothing more than to be inside of you every waking moment of every day. But I know we still have things you probably want to talk about. She lifted her finger up to his lips, hushing him. Stop talking. Alexander, all I want is to feel your lips on every inch of my body. I need you inside of me. I feel like an addict that hasn't gotten a fix, so please, make love to me. Alexander crushed his lips to hers, gently lowering her onto the bed. His hands roamed all over her body, never staying in one place for too long. Take off my shirt. Alex, she said, her voice husky with desire. He made short work of her blouse, unbuttoning it and throwing it on the floor as he stared down at her lacy black bra. She could feel him get hard as he knelt between her legs, admiring her. Kiss me, Alex. She was bossy. Alexander liked this side of her. He lowered his head to her neck, where his breath was hot on her skin, sending shivers up and down her spine. She panted greedily, basking in the closeness of his body to hers once more. "Tell me where, love," he said quietly. "My neck." She tilted her head, giving him better access. He planted gentle kisses from her earlobe, down one side of neck and up the other. "God, I miss the feel of your skin. Olivia, you have the softest skin known to man." She moaned, arching her back. "Where else do you want me to kiss you?" "My chest." He lowered his lips to her collarbone and proceeded to delicately nip at her skin, circling her chest with his tongue, leaving her squirming from the anticipation. "My nipples. Alexander, I want them in your mouth." He looked down at her, an evil grin across his face. "Your wish is my command, princess." He pulled back the material on her bra, exposing both of her nipples. Groaning, he lowered his mouth, tugging and licking on one before moving to the other one and giving it the same treatment. He glanced up, smiling when he saw her slowly becoming unhinged. "Where else, love?" "My stomach. Is that all?" Olivia slowly shook her head, pulling her bottom lip between her teeth. "Then where else, Olivia? Tell me." "I want you to kiss me down there," she said, raising her eyebrows. "Where down here?" Alexander asked, mischievously grabbing her knee. "No," she replied, smirking. "Then, tell me, Olivia. I want you to tell me exactly where you want my tongue," he said, tracing circles around her stomach. She moaned out, her breathing increasing. "I want you to kiss me on my clit." Glancing up, a wide smile spread across his face. "That's my girl," he said quietly, reaching down and sliding off her skirt, followed quickly by her panties. Their eyes met as he buried his tongue between her legs. Throwing her head back, she closed her eyes, trying to control the amazing feeling from the contact of Alexander's tongue on her most sensitive spot. It had been far too long since she had felt his mouth on her. Over the past few weeks, she had often thought of him while touching herself, but nothing compared to the sensation of his tongue swirling around and teasing her. "God, I miss the taste of you, Olivia," he said, sliding one finger inside of her. "You're so tight. I need to stretch you out a bit." "A little cocky, aren't we?" she asked with a hint of amusement in her voice, as Alexander continued pleasuring her with his fingers and tongue at the same time. He smiled. "Not exactly. That's why I need to stretch you." She moaned when he returned his mouth to her, sucking gently. "Fuck. Alex," she exhaled, starting to feel her entire body tremble around his rather talented tongue. She was surprised how quickly she was ready to fall apart from his delicate touch. "That's it, Olivia," he said against her soft flesh. "Just remember how good I make you feel. How I'm the only one who can make you come within seconds of licking your clit." She closed her eyes, desperately trying to fight back her orgasm. She didn't want to come yet. She wanted it to last, but she knew there was no controlling how he affected her. "Don't deny your body. I want you to come for me. I want to see that beautiful body shake because of what I do to you." He returned his tongue to her clit and continued circling her, sending her over the edge. She screamed out his name as she shook in his enormous bed, her entire world a haze as she slowly came down from her orgasm. When the aftershocks died down, Olivia grabbed his face and brought it to her own. "I've sure missed that, Mr. Burnham." She pressed her lips to him, invading his mouth with her tongue, tasting herself. "I've missed it, too," he admitted as she ran her fingers up and down his back, bringing his shirt over his head. "Know what else I've missed?" Olivia looked up at him sweetly, admiring his naked chest. "Being inside of you." "Then what are you waiting for?" she asked in a deep, throaty voice. He quickly stripped out of the rest of his clothes and positioned himself between her legs, easing into her in one slow move. She moaned out as he flexed back and forth slowly, making sure her body was reacclimated to him before he picked up his pace. "I love you so much, Olivia." He kissed her as he moved inside of her. "I love you too, Alexander." She felt so full and overwhelmed at that moment. She thought the first time that they made love was special. But that moment, right then, was even more so. She wrapped her legs around his waist, not wanting to feel any space between them as she pulled his mouth back to hers, kissing him again. She caressed his back, running her fingers up and down his body. "Fuck, Olivia," he exhaled. "I love being inside you. There's nothing like it." He kissed her passionately, moaning into her mouth. "I just knew you were still alive. I never gave up hope that I would find you." Olivia. A tear fell down her face at the mention of his childhood nickname for her. "Oh, Alex," she exhaled, bucking him with her hips. "I love you. I'm so sorry. I never should have left you." He leaned down, gently nibbling on her neck, tracing his tongue across her soft flesh. "I've never stopped loving you. You're the only one for me." Olivia threw her head back, reveling in the feeling of Alexander's mouth on her body as he moved delicately inside her. It was all becoming so overwhelming. She thought she loved him with all her heart before, but this was so much more. The simple act of him moving inside her was so much bigger than anything she had ever experienced before. She was climbing higher and higher, the love she felt for Alexander making her tears flow even harder. "Don't cry. Olivia, I'll always be here for you." Tears continued to stream down her face as she processed everything that she had been through over the past several months. Alexander slowed his rhythm, looking down at the beautiful woman beneath him. "Please don't cry, Angel. I need to know you're all right. I need to know I'm not hurting you." He brought his hand to Olivia's face, gently wiping her tear-stained cheeks. He planted soft kisses all over her face where her tears once were. Pulling back, he beamed his brilliant smile at her. "That's my girl." Olivia grinned in response, giggling through her tears, moving beneath Alexander once again. He met her rhythm, burying his face against her neck. "Faster, Alex," Olivia breathed out, starting to feel that familiar clenching feeling. "Are you going to go again?" he asked, pulling back to stare into her eyes. "I think so." He began to move at a quicker pace on top of her. "Alex, wait, I haven't taken my birth control pills lately. I forgot them when I went to Vegas and never started a new pack." He continued moving quickly, his own orgasm imminent. "What do you want me to do?" "Olivia, I'm about to come. I can't stop now." "Are you worried about getting pregnant if it happens?" "I'm okay with it." Olivia stared deep into Alexander's eyes, unable to focus as she took in those green eyes and felt her body begin to tremble. "Olivia, answer me. What do you want me to do?" "Fuck, Alex, don't pull out," she cried out as her orgasm took over her body. He pumped faster, leaning down and gently tugging on her nipple with his teeth as he found his own release, muttering her name against her skin before collapsing on top of her. "That was pretty fucking intense," she commented while they both attempted to get their breathing under control. Alexander rolled over, pulling her body against his, wrapping his arms and legs around her as he gently caressed her skin for several long moments. "Olivia, darling, do you want to talk about what happened to Kira?" he asked sweetly. She sighed. She didn't even want to think about it, but she knew she couldn't avoid it forever. Turning to face him, she ran her fingers through his messy hair, his green eyes intense and desperate for information. "I called her earlier this morning," she started. "I wanted to tell her about my father." Alexander scowled. "Hey, you never said I had to keep it quiet." Okay, sorry, continue." "She didn't sound too good. She said something about a fight with Mo, so I told her I'd be over there soon. I grabbed my car and drove over." "Wait a second. Where the fuck was your protection detail?" His eyes grew wild with anger. She glared at him. Okay, I'll worry about that later. Go on." She continued to run Alexander through the events of that morning, leaving out the part about running into Simon. She knew he would overreact to that piece of information, so it would be best to just keep that from him. "Back up a second. Olivia, you said the guy looked familiar." "He did, but I can't remember where I've seen him before." "What did he look like?" His face was now ingrained in her brain. He was big, tall and built. He had evil eyes and his breath stunk. His voice. She trailed off, her mind racing. "What is it? Do you remember something?" "It was the guy from that day in the snow." Olivia shot up, covering her chest with the blanket. "I knew he looked familiar." Alexander had a feeling that there was more going on than she probably knew. His heart sank as he came to the realization that the attack wasn't about hurting Kira, it was about hurting Olivia. "Listen to me, Olivia. This is not your fault." He pulled her back down next to him, staring into her eyes. "Nothing you could have done would have stopped it. We don't even know who that guy is or what he wants. It could all just be a coincidence that he attacked Kira." Olivia buried her face in Alexander's chest, relishing in the warmth of his body, not wanting to tell him about the letter Carol showed her. "I don't want to talk about it anymore. Alex, I'm exhausted. Every time I close my eyes, all I see is Kira's blood-covered body, and I just want to forget it, even if just for a minute." "Okay, but we need to talk about it at some point, about what it all means." He gently kissed the top of her head. "We will, but right now, I need you to help me forget." She pushed him on his back and crawled on top of him, desperate to feel him inside her again. Chapter 23. More Secrets. Olivia crouched in this corner of her family's large estate on the beach, playing hide-and-seek with her best friend, Alex. She was a great hider. "What is this?" Jack, her mama, asked, her voice concerned. "Marilyn, you weren't supposed to find that." Her father sounded angry. "Jack, this is some serious stuff. Please tell me that you're not involved. What do you take me for? Some criminal? I would never betray my country like that." "Then explain to me what this is. Please, I beg you. This is classified stuff. Something I'm working on. A bit of a side project. There's a lot of big brass involved here. Mary, I don't know who I can trust. This runs so deep, even up to the top of the CIA. I had to bring all the evidence home so that they don't find out that I know. To keep me safe. To keep you safe." Olivia's mother let out the breath she was holding. "Thank God. You had me worried for a minute," she said, running her hand against his face. "I need to go. I'll be back by dinner." "Marilyn, wait, where are you going?" "Out with Colleen. She's heading back home later this week to get ready to deliver the baby. I want to spend some time with her before I don't see her again for the rest of the summer." "Okay, I love you, sweet girl." Olivia saw her mother turn and smile at her father. "I know." She heard the door close. Her father strode over to the phone in the kitchen and dialed. "Hey, it's me. I need your help." "Olivia, wake up, please. You're scaring me." "Come on, baby," Alexander pleaded, trying to shake her awake. He had been trying to wake her up for the past several minutes. He had hoped the nightmares would subside once she knew who she was. Apparently, that wasn't the case. "Olivia, please." He watched as she shook and screamed, unable to do anything. "Please." Suddenly, her eyes flung open and she gasped for air. "Oh, thank God. You had me worried. Love." Alexander pulled her head flush with his chest. That must have been some nightmare. Olivia couldn't speak. Her tongue felt as if it was caught in her throat. She had never had that dream before and she didn't know what to make of it. It didn't make any sense. Nothing did anymore. At first, Olivia thought that the only thing Alexander had kept from her was that they were childhood friends. There had to be something more. Something that had to do with the reason his father had to fake her and her father's deaths. She had a feeling Alexander had all the answers, and she wanted those answers. But, at the same time, she kept hearing Carol's words in her head, pleading with her to trust his judgment. Alexander held Olivia tight and soothed her tears as her shaking began to subside, desperate to calm her down. He didn't want to ask, but he needed to know what had her so shaken up. "Do you want to talk about it?" "Just another stupid dream. Alex, go back to sleep. Don't worry about me." She took a deep breath, inhaling his scent. "But I do worry about you, Olivia. I know you do. I just don't want to talk about it." "Okay." He held her tight, scared that he would lose her again if he pushed her any further. "Okay." The following morning, Alexander's phone began ringing, waking him and Olivia up. "Alex, don't answer it. Please," she begged sleepily. "I don't want you to leave this nice warm bed." Reaching for the cell, he looked at the caller ID. "It's Carol. She may have some information about Kira's case." Olivia exhaled. "Fine, but you owe me." He answered the phone, grinning at the beautiful brunette in his bed. Hey, sis. So, thanks for telling me Jack DeLuca is still alive. Shit. Alexander got out of the bed and walked down the hall to a spare room for a little bit of privacy. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for anyone to know. I didn't even want Olivia to know. What she shouted, enraged by Alexander's admission. That's her father. For crying out loud. You really wanted to keep that information from her. After everything she's been through. Haven't you kept enough secrets from that poor girl? I know. But there was a reason that Dad put them both under protection. There was a reason their lives were better off if the people they were before the accident were thought to be dead. I trust you, Alex. I always have. But you need to start looking at the bigger picture here. Some serious shit must have gone down back then for Dad to do what he did. Alexander walked over to the window and stared down at the waterfront, sunlight shimmering on the ocean below him. What I'm about to tell you cannot be repeated to another soul. Alex, come on. I'm a detective, in case you've forgotten. I know all about classified information. I deal with it on an almost daily basis. He took a deep breath. Several months ago, I confronted Jack outside of Olivia's home. He was sitting out there, keeping watch over her. I have no idea how or when he found her, but he did. I had just read Dad's letter that told me what happened all those years ago, or, at least, a rough idea of what did. Anyway, I had been seeing the same rental sedan everywhere Olivia was, so I wanted to find out who the hell it was. As I approached the car, I thought my eyes were betraying me. It was him, Jack. But an older version of him. Wow, Carol exhaled. I made him get out of the car so that we could have a little talk. I still had no idea why Kiddish and his goons were after Olivia again after all these years. She was just a little girl back when everything went down. I've always wondered the same thing. None of it made any sense. I know. Come to find out, Jack had collected evidence on certain higher-ups in the government, including the CIA, who had been brokering deals with known terror organizations. It became clear that the entire family was in trouble, so he reached out to Dad for help. After the crash, Jack was concerned that both his and Olivia's lives were still in danger. But that doesn't explain why these people hired Kiddish again. I mean, Olivia was just a little girl. Well, here's the kicker. When we were little, we used to play this game with her father. Olivia loved it. Treasure map. Her father would take a box and bury it somewhere, and would then draw a map with clues as to where it was hidden. But that time, Olivia apparently grabbed the chest with all that evidence, saying she would hide it and, when she was finished, would draw him a map. Her father had locked the documents in a chest for safekeeping. You remember the great room at their beach house? Olivia's mother had it decorated in a nautical theme with lots of fake treasure chests. Olivia loved it. Anyway, her father didn't realize she had grabbed that chest until it was too late. And then the accident happened. So, the only person who knows where that evidence is hidden is Olivia. Exactly, and Kiddish knows that. Fuck! After speaking for several more minutes about what everything meant, Alexander hung up. He didn't even know what it all meant yet, but he was determined to find out. When he re-entered the master bedroom, a smile crept across his face as he stared down at Olivia's sleeping form. Hearing the door creak open, Olivia stirred, turning her body to face Alexander's frame in the doorway. "Come back to bed," she said groggily. He stood there, admiring her naked silhouette from afar. "You're so cute in the morning when you're all tired." She yawned. "You tired me out last night. Alex, you were like a machine." He strode over to the bed, getting back under the covers and wrapping his arms around her. "You have that effect on me. Love, I just can't get enough of you." She smiled, pushing him onto his back and slowly climbing on top of him. "Good," she said breathlessly, leaning down and dragging her tongue across his chest. "Because I want you. Now." She leaned back, gazing at the boy who saved her. Her hips circled his waist, waking up his erection. "There's my boy." "Olivia," he exhaled, pulling her toward him, their lips almost touching. "Don't ever leave me again." Carefully, he slid inside her. She moaned out in pleasure, closing her eyes as she basked in the amazing sensation of him filling her. Never, Alexander. Never again. Good. He gently moved inside her, slowly picking up his pace as he held her hips, guiding her on top of him. Because I plan on spending the rest of my life fucking you senseless. Fuck. Olivia never thought she could come by hearing words alone, but she knew that with Alexander, anything was possible. I plan on putting lots of babies right in here, he said, his breathing ragged as he gently caressed her stomach. Olivia leaned down, pressing her lips to his as her movements became even more hurried, searching desperately for her release. Alexander lowered his hands, cupping her ass gently before bringing one palm back and spanking her cheek. She screamed out in surprise. You like that, don't you? She couldn't put a coherent thought together, the sensation overwhelming her. Answer me, Olivia, he growled. Yes, she screamed. Yes, what he shouted, spanking her again, harder. Yes, Mr. Burnham. Yes, she screamed out, coming undone. Waves of pleasure flooded through her body, her entire core shuddering from the intense feeling before she began spiraling down. Alexander flipped her onto her back and hovered over her, rubbing his erection against her clit while she continued to spasm beneath him from the aftershocks of her orgasm. She began panting, moaning out, Alex, please, she begged, stop being a tease. He leaned down and took one of her nipples in his mouth, tugging it with his teeth. Am I really a tease? He asked coyly, his voice heavy with amusement. Of course you are, and you know it. She grabbed his head, bringing it inches from her own. Please, Alexander, I want you to come inside me, he groaned, slamming into her. His rhythm was fast and relentless. I love when you talk like that, Olivia. It's such a turn-on. She closed her eyes, meeting his pace thrust for thrust. I love you, Alexander, she murmured. He leaned down, pulling on her earlobe. And I love you, always. He grunted before he emptied inside her, gently biting her neck and savoring the taste of her soft skin. I missed this, Olivia said quietly as she ran her hands up and down his back. My fingers just weren't cutting it, she joked. Lucky fingers. Rolling onto his side, he pulled her into his arms. She snuggled up against him, clutching his hand in her own, placing a chaste kiss on his knuckles before glancing over at the nightstand. Holy crap! Is that the time, she exclaimed, shooting up from the bed? Alexander looked over at the clock. I guess so. Shit! I have to get it back to the hospital. I can't believe we stayed in bed until almost noon. She jumped out of bed and ran into the shower. He laughed, watching her beautiful naked body run into the bathroom. Frantic. It was good to have Olivia back home, where she belonged. Chapter 24, Trust. Are you sure you'll be okay without me? Alexander asked as he opened the front door of their apartment building. I'll be fine, she said, the irritation showing in her voice. Mo needs me right now. I promise I'll call you if anything comes up. He searched her eyes, nervous about letting her out of his sight. Alexander, please. It's a hospital. For crying out loud. There's security every 2 feet in there. What could possibly happen to me? I'll be surrounded by everyone. Carter will be with me anyway. She gestured with her head toward one of the 2 idling SUVs. He sighed, not wanting to argue with her now that they had finally reconciled. Okay, love. I'll be at the office getting some work done if you need me. Remember, if you want to leave the hospital for any reason, Carter will accompany you. Or you can call me and I'll come right away. I will. She cocked her head toward him, and their lips met. Oysters tonight. He grinned, loving the taste of Olivia's lips. And do we want to practice making babies before or after that, he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Something had certainly changed in Alexander over the past few weeks that they had been apart. Olivia had never heard him mention wanting kids before. She was excited about the prospect of starting a family with him, but there were still some unresolved issues between them, issues that she had no desire to address at the moment. How about both? That's my girl. Alexander watched Olivia walk away from the building and into the SUV, his heart racing as her hips swayed in that way that always turned him on. Then he climbed into the back seat of the second SUV. A few minutes later, he entered the vacant reception area of his company's headquarters, making his way down the corridor and into his office. Once he was sure the door was locked behind him, he returned to the bathroom and was soon down in the large safe room once more. He began digging through the boxes again, knowing that he would eventually have to give Olivia some information about her past. He was also secretly hoping that he would find the infamous evidence box. He knew it was a long shot, but maybe it was there and his father never found it. As he sorted through box after box, he came across items from Olivia's childhood and his own: family photos, stuffed animals, toys. Some boxes were full of documents, deeds to various property holdings, bank statements. As he dug through everything, he stumbled upon his father's handwriting on a piece of paper amongst years' worth of financial records. Numbers and letters were scratched on several sheets of legal paper. It was obvious that he was onto something. But what was it? Alexander grabbed the box and brought it to a desk to sort through, on a mission to determine what it was that his father had figured out. None of the records made any sense. All the numbers seemed to run together. He recalled his mother saying that his father had grown rather paranoid during the last few months of his life. Maybe this was just a result of that paranoia. Still, he needed some advice and he knew there was only one person he could turn to. "Hey, sis, it's me," he said into his cell phone. "Are you working today?" "No, I'm off. I was about to go to the hospital to see how Kira was doing." "Why, what's up? Think you could swing by my office on the way? There's something I need to show you." "What are you talking about?" Simon Donovan shouted into the phone, unable to even believe what he was saying. "You better not be having second thoughts. This whole plan rests on you following through. I just didn't think anyone would get seriously hurt." Simon explained. "That bastard raped her. It was horrific." "Hey, buck the fuck up. I hope you're not getting soft on me now. You wanted to pull the trigger anyway. We're giving you your goddamn wish. Need I remind you that if you fail, we'll kill both you and the girl. Either way, the girl will die. It's just a matter of whether you go down the same path." Simon began to shake with apprehension. What else could he do? He was in too deep, and the only way to save his own life was to throw Olivia to the proverbial wolves. "I got it. I won't let you down. I promise." Fuming, Donovan slammed his phone. "Trouble in paradise?" a voice called out, walking into his office. Donovan looked up. He recognized that voice, but had never actually met the man before. All of their business was conducted solely over the phone. After looking into the man's cold, hard stare, Donovan finally answered, rather confused. "Nothing I can't handle, sir. This is why you pay me." "I understand that. But it seems like your golden boy, Simon, has grown a bit of a heart. Are you sure he'll follow through when the time comes? Can you be sure the girl will even lead him to those documents? It's a risk we all have to take. That's the reason we left that note at her friend's house, to draw her out, hoping that she'll come forward in order to prevent further harm to anybody else she's close to. That is, unless you have a better plan. I pay you to come up with the plan. Now, the second you know where the box is, you better fucking call me." "Yes, sir." "Livy, I'm so glad that you're here," Mo said when he saw her walk through the sliding glass doors of the hospital and into the waiting area. Carter closed behind her. She made her way over to him and gave him a hug. "Of course. How's she doing today?" "Good, actually," he responded with a hopeful look on his face. "The doctors say the swelling in her brain is going down, and if she stays on track, they may be able to bring her out of the coma tomorrow." "That's fantastic news." "Mo, thank God." Olivia looked around the empty waiting room. "Is anyone else here? Her parents are sitting with her right now." "Good. Can I ask you a question?" His eyes narrowed and suddenly became rather serious. She had a feeling what that question would be, and she wasn't sure how she should answer it. "Sure, Mo. Anything," she replied nervously. Carter took a few steps back, giving the two friends a bit of privacy. Mo took Olivia's hand and walked her over to a lounge chair, never releasing his hold on her as they both sat down. "I need to know, Livy. No one is telling me anything, and that leads me to suspect something more than just a physical attack occurred yesterday." Olivia stared at him, swallowing hard at what she knew was about to come. What did you see when you got to her house yesterday? He asked with a shaky voice. She looked down at her hand as Mo ran his fingers over it. Please, Livy, I need to know. He pleaded with her. Was she? His voice trailed off and Olivia's eyes met his. All she could see was Kira's lifeless body covered in blood. Her skirt hiked up around her waist with more blood trailing down her thighs. She briefly closed her eyes, trying to muster the strength to say the words. He seemed so much stronger than he had been the day before, and telling him may send him back to the dark place he had just returned from. But if she withheld all that from him, she would be no better than Alexander keeping all those secrets from her. And she knew how badly that hurt. She couldn't do that to her friend, as well, making her decision. Olivia slowly opened her eyes, meeting Mo's gaze. Was she? She nodded slowly. Yes. From what I could gather about everything, she was. And when I spoke with Carol yesterday, she had inferred that there was evidence that she was. Mo let out a small cry and bowed his head, unable to process what Olivia had just confirmed for him. No one would be straight with me here because she's unconscious. He took several deep breaths. I'm going to kill that motherfucker. Mo, please. I ran into a friend while I was trying to escape, and it sounded like he did a number on the guy. I'm pretty sure the police have him in custody. No, Livy, he said urgently. They never found anyone in the house. Olivia's mind started to race. What are you talking about? She asked. Who is this friend? He eyed her suspiciously. She looked down at her lap, unsure of whether to tell him about her run-in with Simon. Livy, damn it. Who was it? He shouted, standing up and hovering over her as he glared down at her. Glimpsing to where Carter stood, she hoped that he couldn't overhear their conversation. Simon, she replied quietly, avoiding his gaze. Mo's eyes went wide. Are you fucking crazy? Olivia, after all the shit he did to you. He began to pace back and forth, unable to comprehend how a woman as intelligent as Olivia could even think about speaking to Simon again. Calm down. Mo, she pleaded, trying to get him to lower his voice. He's one of the good guys. He had me stand outside while he went back into the house to see if the guy who attacked Kira was still there. I heard the fight. Then I heard someone fall down the basement stairs. I guess he must not have been as unconscious as Simon originally thought. There is that back door in the basement. He could have escaped that way. Livy, don't you think it's a little strange that you just so happened to run into the same guy who attacked you? No, Mo, I don't. Olivia replied loudly, becoming irritated with his questions. Did he not realize that if Simon wasn't there, Kira may not be alive at all? He let me use his phone to call the police, and he went into that house, when he didn't have to, in order to make sure it was safe, to make sure I wasn't attacked again, to help Kira. He's one of the good guys. I promise. I've spoken to him a few times since he got out of prison, and he's really changed. Mo, he's turned his life around. I'm not about to jump back into bed with him or anything, but he's proven to be someone I can count on, especially yesterday. If it wasn't for him, Kira may be dead right now. Mo's eyes searched Olivia's for a clue as to how he should react to what she just told him. He exhaled loudly. I trust you, Livy. And if you trust him, then I guess that's going to have to be good enough for me. I do trust him, Mo. He has yet to lie to me. That's more than I can say for Alexander. Speaking of which, I saw you leave with him yesterday. He raised his eyebrows at her. Are you guys back together? Olivia sighed. I guess so. He wants to talk about everything. But I'm torn. I'm scared to find out how much he's been keeping from me. But we eventually need to address the elephant in the room. You know? He nodded, sitting back down next to her, and wrapped his arms around her. But right now, I'm enjoying the hell out of getting laid again. Mo laughed, bringing a smile to Olivia's face. Chapter 25, Guilt. What is this place? Alex Carroll asked after being led to an enormous room in Alexander's office building that she had never seen before. It's a safe room Dad had built years ago for security reasons, I guess. But what is all this stuff? She gazed around at the piles and piles of boxes stacked on metal racks, placed against the walls. It reminded her of the evidence storage locker at work. Files, photos, stuff like that. Alexander shrugged. About what Carol asked, interested in what her father hid from them during his lifetime. Olivia, he replied, gauging his sister's reaction. Carol surveyed the room, astonished. Holy shit. Yeah, I found out about it after I read Dad's letter. Then I found this today. He handed her the legal sheet with numbers and letters scratched on it, almost as if written in his own unique code. She read it, trying to figure out what it could mean. I don't understand. Alex, neither do I. I was hoping that you might be able to shed some light on it. I wish I could help. I really do. But this doesn't mean anything to me. She handed the notepad back. Maybe the answer is somewhere in here. She motioned to the hundreds upon hundreds of boxes filled with potential clues. His eyes grew wide at the prospect of having to dig through each box, looking for a needle in the haystack. Carol noticed his apprehension at the enormity of the project. Well, I guess we better start digging then. She grabbed a box off one of the shelves and brought it over to a desk. He looked at her, disbelief written on his face. You're going to help? Of course I am. I'm probably the only person you can actually trust with this shit. Alexander shook his head. You're right about that. Well, get your ass to work then. Carol began to sort through the box, wondering if Olivia had mentioned anything about the letter the Tex had found at the crime scene. Olivia walked through the bustling hospital corridors before stopping outside of Kira's room, taking a deep breath and entering. As she sat by her friend's side throughout the afternoon, she thought about Alexander and how silly she felt for staying angry at him for so long when he was only trying to protect her. There were people out there who wanted to harm her. Yes, it was painful to know that he kept her identity from her for so long, even when he watched her struggle with her past. But Carol was right. He only ever had her best interests at heart. She clutched Kira's cold hand and stared at her lifeless body, trying to find the words to tell her that everything would be okay. Even though she couldn't hear her, her eyes welled with tears every time she looked at her swollen head, bandaged from where they had to extract the bullet. I'm so sorry. Care Bear, she cried softly. I never meant for this to happen to you. She stayed by her side for what seemed like hours, her thoughts consumed with revenge. As the sky streaked with lightning, a summer thunderstorm rolling in and drenching the city, her cell phone rang. She didn't recognize the number, but answered anyway. Hey, Olivia, it's Simon. I just wanted to check in and see how you're doing after everything that happened yesterday. Oh, hi, Simon. I'm glad you called. She released Kira's hand and stood up, walking toward the windows. Really, he asked, noticeably surprised by her response. Of course, we're friends after all, aren't we? He was silent, unsure about how to respond. His guilt started to overwhelm him. At first, he wanted Olivia to pay for having him arrested, but things had begun to spin out of control. In the end, he wasn't so sure he could follow through with what he was supposed to do. You really want to be friends with me, even after everything that's happened? I do. Simon, you're one of the few people I know who has never lied to me. I could really use someone like that in my life right now. He cringed at her words. How's Kira? He asked after several long, silent moments. As good as can be expected. She turned and walked back to stand next to her friend's still body. She was shot in her head, chest, and leg. Bastard, Simon muttered under his breath. I know. They had to induce a coma in order to remove the bullet from her head. Surgery went well, and they were able to remove all the bullets and stop the excess bleeding. The swelling in her brain has gone down, and they say that they may be able to bring her back from the coma within the next few days, if not sooner. That's a relief. She's going to make it then. It appears so. That's great news. Olivia heard her phone beep, indicating she had another call coming in. She ignored it and continued speaking with Simon. I just want to thank you for everything you did for me yesterday. If you weren't out for a run when and where you were, I don't know what would have happened. You saved Kira's life. I don't think I can ever repay you. She was lucky that none of the bullets hit any vital organs. I don't know if I'd call what happened to her lucky, he said. I know. She brushed her friend's forehead, but she was totally helpless. All that guy needed to do was put one more bullet in her and she'd be dead. she said with a quiver in her voice, just as she heard her phone beep again. She continued to ignore the incoming call. Well, I'm glad I was able to help. He felt incredibly guilty for deceiving her. What was happening to him just a few months ago, he was itching to get his revenge. But there was something so different about Olivia. It was as if she was a completely new person than the girl he dated the previous summer. This new Olivia was kind, caring, compassionate, a huge change from the cold-hearted bitch he knew all those months ago. He hated what he had agreed to do to her. I just wish they were able to catch the guy. Apparently, he got out of the house before the police were able to detain him. Simon lowered his voice. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, I'm sure I'll have to go and give a description of him, especially once Kira wakes up. Listen, Olivia, talk to Alexander. Make sure he assigns a couple of guys to watch Kira's hospital room. She scrunched her eyebrows, curious as to why Simon was suddenly more concerned. Why she's in a hospital. I don't think anyone would be stupid enough to try anything here. Libby, I doubt this guy, whoever he is, intended to leave her as a witness. In fact, both of us should probably be careful. We've seen his face. He didn't know what else Grant and Donovan had planned. The least he could do was warn her. You remember what I told you a few months ago about those guys who were after you for some reason, don't you? I know. I already can't go anywhere without my protection detail. I can't remember the last time I didn't have one of Alexander's security people keeping an eye on me. I know he's just trying to keep me safe and I appreciate it, but sometimes I feel like I have no privacy. Alexander cares about you. That's all. I'd do the same if you were mine. His voice became quiet, trailing off. Simon, I'm sorry, I wasn't into the whole relationship thing when I met you. Listen, I should get it going, he said. Remorse overwhelming him. He couldn't listen to her voice anymore without breaking down and telling her exactly what was going to happen. And he couldn't do that, or he'd end up dead, too. Goodbye, Simon, and thank you for everything. He hung up, not wanting to feel any more guilt than he already did. Do you think she'll be okay? Alexander asked later that afternoon, breaking the silence that had permeated the storage room. Neither one had been able to figure out their father's code, nor how it related to the financial statements the papers were found with. I mean, after walking in on Kira and seeing, he trailed off before composing himself. Will it be enough to know that they were able to catch the guy? What are you talking about? Alex Carroll asked, looking at him with her eyebrows scrunched in confusion. They didn't catch the guy. Olivia said she ran for help, and a stranger walked back to the house with her. She said that this guy attacked the intruder after he saw he was still in there. He said urgently. She said he pushed him down the basement stairs and that he was knocked unconscious. Nobody was ever found, although the exterior basement door was open. So this guy is still out there? He asked, his voice trembling. He kicked himself for not following up sooner on what happened to the intruder. It appears so. Fuck. His mind started racing, thinking about Olivia at the hospital without him. At least Carter was there with her. Carol didn't know what to do. She thought Alexander knew that they never caught the guy. It was entirely possible that Olivia didn't know. But then there was the letter. So, where is Olivia? At the hospital, Alexander responded, visiting Kira. Did you send Carter or anyone with her? She tried to keep her inquiry casual, not wanting to key him in on why she was prying. He looked up from the desk and glared at his sister, certain that she was keeping something from him. What's going on? Why do you care? Do you know something? Carol returned her attention to the box in front of her, trying to avoid eye contact with her brother. No, of course not. It's not even my case, she said quickly. Alexander got up from his chair and stalked across the room. He stopped in front of the desk she sat at and leaned toward her. You know you're a terrible liar. Tell me what you know. Alex, please. She raised her eyes and met his. Carol, we already know that there's some sort of threat against her life in regards to this evidence box that could be anywhere. Whatever you know can't be worse than that. She took a deep breath. The crime scene techs may have found something at Kira's that involved Olivia, and I may have shown it to her. To who Olivia Alexander raised his voice. Carol cringed, surprised by his anger. Don't you shout at me. Someone was bound to talk to her about it. I figured it should probably be me. What was this something, Carol, he asked through clenched teeth. She reached down into her purse and produced her cell phone. She scrolled through it and found the photo of the evidence bag containing the letter that she had shown to Olivia the previous day. Taking the phone, Alexander squinted his eyes to make out the scribbling on the piece of paper in the photo. "We know who you are. Your loved ones are no longer safe unless you give us what we want. Consider yourself warned. Olivia." Shit. What does this mean? He asked, his heart thumping in his chest. His eyes searched hers for an answer. Carol exhaled loudly, taking back her phone. "I think it means exactly what it says," she responded dejectedly. "These guys are now going after everyone close to Olivia to draw her out." "Fuck!" Alexander shouted, running out of the room and up the stairs to his office. "Alex, wait!" Carol shouted after him, following close behind. "Don't do anything stupid. Are you listening to yourself?" "Carol, you're asking me to not do anything stupid. The time for not doing anything stupid is so long past. Do you know what Olivia is probably thinking at this exact moment? I was ready to tell her about everything, but now I can't." "What are you talking about?" "Why, don't you see? Once she knows what these people are after, she'll sacrifice herself to save her friends. That's who she is. I can't lose her